Humans refuse and refuse and refuse and refuse and refuse and refuse. To sacrifice their dominance and to stop their stimulation addiction. However, instead humans, they go to war in Ukraine, humans go to war in Iraq, humans go to war in Afghanistan, humans go to war in Taiwan, humans go to war in Tibet, humans go to war with all those Muslims who are Chinese. And the same smug, cold faces talking about a mystery they call their philosophy and theory of critical thought they had in the 60s and 70s when they were so alive and so brave and strong they chose computer science and have now indoctrinated all of planet Earth with their light and sound, energy, and mostly unrecognizable spirituality they have mixed with the religions they now describe as inappropriate unless you have the necessary burqa and then you wear the necessary hijab and you don't look at the other person too long who doesn't agree that their pride flag on their head has more to do with what they have on their brain-dead fucking skull. They walk around, they walk around, they walk around, talking about in circles and triangles and squares and flashing their teeth with their gold jewelry and their fucking brass knuckles. But humans will so eagerly give up their stimulation to receive the reward, different from the stimulation they reduced, approved by the socialist communist government they call the politics. At the University of Washington in North America. And instead of the stimulation of just staring at the light and staring at the light and staring at the light and then staring at the light until you can't see the light outside anymore because all you're doing is staring at the light and staring at the light and staring at the light and eventually talking to the light and listening to the light and touching the light. Going to war for the stimulation of light, for the stimulation of equality, for the stimulation of a pride flag instead of a USA object, for what Karl Marx did for all of those people who survived the black carnage and death. Noticeable when the epidemic and the pandemic ignored by the University of Washington in Seattle got so out of control. Hispanic men and Latino men and Chicano men and all the cartels handed out knives with their crack pipes and their heroin, needles and their fentanyl. They sure did have a party, enjoying more stimulation and more stimulation and more stimulation and more stimulation, and now they're trying to kill each other more. To have more stimulation and more stimulation and more stimulation, they say, is necessary and required, and what they need to have their future and what they need to have their mind back and what they need to have silence when they're studying for their final. In other words, humans will only, arguably, sacrifice their stimulation for a reward involving a different kind of stimulation. But you'll never see a person like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk concede their money has no benefit, with so many wives to please and so many children to feed, so many cars to drive in circles with their bandanas, screaming on their bikes, hallelujah. They've got an air conditioner and they can stare longer than Krishna in silence, dancing on their yacht with their yogathon, having their yogathon and their yogathon. A stimulation much different than the poor people have to search and find, involving drugs. With sex so boring and naked women so disgusting, there's now so many bald men. I'm too distracted by the light from their skin. I usually try to avoid when they get so close. They try to touch and touch and touch, like the priests and the nuns at the churches where they profess their godliness and genius and brilliance. As a faculty member who stares and looks at light and stares and looks at light and talks about light they stare at and talks about light they look at and light they touch and light they touch, and can never explain the mystery they're doing, repeating. Now with the old men dominating the younger men and the young children saying, oh my gosh, I hope they don't touch me when I'm that old, because they sure do love to touch me in silence. Every night, every morning. When they whisper and touch my tent and they come to touch my body with their greasy, nasty fingers and their crusty nails falling off of their decrepit, dying prostates they lost 70 years ago in silence. A mathematician could count and count and count, and probably finish 15 minutes faster than a person could with 7 more minutes remaining. 7 minutes a man will use to explain his theory and his philosophy about his equation and then prove what he's doing with his body. And he calls his dominance quantum mathematics. He uses to stalk his prey for his victim. He hunts with his eyes and his dumb fucking brain. So stupid and decrepit from the mind, there's no gender remaining. Humans will eventually go to war to have their Tesla, their stimulation machine they've achieved and accomplished with their other truck they have, and their other vehicle they have with electricity and computer power and the control and dominance of engineering. But what nobody talks about has to do with those who are so obviously stupid and dumb, walking to a university and college for silence on the most quiet floor in silence. They often talk and whisper and then visit, not saying a word other than the stare and the stare and the stare and the stare. They provide with their teeth so dirty and nasty from all the coffee they drink every day. They're all ready to kill the babies and the children they're having now for their war in the future. They're preparing for them and causing for them, they call an anonymous mystery they can't solve, but an object they swear will probably not kill as many people as who are going to die from the bullies and the thugs who say, shut up, you're disrupting their comfortable dominance and violence they use as their stimulation to reward all those who will do what they require socially in the world they own. Those humans who are so smart and so intelligent, they're stuck on the word addiction, and they're thinking only about stimulation and what will reward them when they finally have their silence back from the silence some stranger took, not explaining why the silence was taken on the land that they have already declared their own. A dirt and an earth they call a planet, and a place nobody can visit unless they follow their rules and restrictions about making a sound after taking a poop and a pee on their toilet. They watch and they observe and they listen to in their routine those humans who love their stimulation and cherish their reward.